for another update on Ophelia, which thankfully continues to weaken as it's moving over eastern North Carolina. The latest advisory at 11 o'clock has the storm near Greenville in Pitt County. That's where the center of circulation is located, tracking off to the north at 13 miles per hour. 50-mile-per-hour winds, and I think the next advisory, intermediate advisory, comes out at 2 p.m. We're going to see that the storm is probably by then just barely going to be a tropical storm, and it will be just a remnant low as it moves up through the tidewater of Virginia. To kind of recap what we've seen play out throughout the morning, earlier this morning between about 6 and 7 a.m., Ophelia moved inland in Carteret County, North Carolina. Emerald Isle was the location where it moved, and near Emerald Isle, of course, you've got Morehead City and you've got Atlantic Beach, just a beautiful area called the Crystal Coast in eastern North Carolina. We haven't heard about damage or anything like that. Of course, you can join us tonight on WFMY News 2 at 6 and 11, and we'll kind of recap any damage. I have not seen within my weather data any reports of weather damage, but I am sure that with the beach overwash, there has been some beach erosion along coastal North Carolina. But hopefully very minimal damage. Continues to weaken. It moved inland earlier this morning as with maximum sustained winds of 70 miles per hour. This thing really strengthened yesterday as it moved over the very warm waters of the Gulf Stream, and it was on the verge of becoming a Category 1 hurricane. Winds have to get up to 74 miles per hour, so it was mighty close. And by the time it moved inland, it had not strengthened to hurricane force. So thankfully that is good news, but certainly a very strong tropical storm with those sustained winds at 70 miles per hour. Even though the winds are dying down slowly and the atmospheric pressure is going up, there is still a ton of tropical moisture wrapping around the center of circulation from Raleigh all the way down into the coastal plain. Raleigh has really gotten some heavy rain over the past hour. No flash flood warnings for Wake County, but they have been drenched with some heavy downpours, and we'll see a better view of the Raleigh-Durham area and the Triad area on another radar segment coming up. Updated forecast track, really no big changes other than as we go out in time, maybe the remnant low bending and moving back out to sea, but remaining a tropical storm as it moves through North Carolina, and then it will become just a remnant low as it moves into the tidewater area of Virginia, and it will pass on again and take more of a northeasterly and then easterly turn. Updated wind gusts just recently. These are very recent wind gusts. Roxborough with a 31 mile per hour wind gust, Raleigh at 24, 18 Asheboro, we like it when the winds are lighter like that, Statesville 22, 24 at Winston-Salem, and a 25 mile per hour wind gust here in Greensboro, measured out at PTI. I believe the 40 mile per hour or near 40 mile per hour wind gusts are pretty much over with, but we couldn't rule out maybe a wind gust approaching 30 miles per hour for the rest of the afternoon. But the strongest winds are over with. Even down east, it is still quite breezy there, but nothing like what, the 64 mile per hour wind gusts that we had earlier at Beaufort. And I saw earlier this morning were a wind gust at Wilmington of 47 miles per hour, but still some rather breezy conditions down east. But again, as the system continues to weaken, even in eastern North Carolina, pretty much reaching the peak of the strongest winds that were going to be produced by the storm, and they'll continue to weaken this afternoon and overnight. Let's talk about the maximum wind gusts that we've had across the area for the calendar day. This is since midnight, a whopping 36 mile per hour wind gust at the airport PTI. Burlington earlier this morning, a 43 mile per hour wind gust, and even up at Danville, had a 40-mile-per-hour wind gust, but these are the peak wind gusts that we have seen for today. And these type of wind gusts are really pretty much over with. Let's talk about rainfall. Rainfall for Friday, yesterday, as the storm was still off the South Carolina coast. Already we saw a band of heavier downpours approach the coastal plain and move into the areas of eastern North Carolina, giving Cape Hatteras 3.52 inches of rain for yesterday, and Wilmington 1.32, a little over a half of an inch of rain at Myrtle Beach. Now you see all these zeros here. Of course, no rain made it into the Triad. It really started to rain here in the Triad around midnight last night. So the total that we've had so far today is 0.39 inches of rain. Danville 0.56, nearly an inch of rain. I've told you over the past hour, hour and a half, some heavy downpours around the Raleigh-Durham area. And not much rain for today. I guess that's a good thing after the drenching rain at Hatteras yesterday. Wilmington with the 1.32 yesterday, 0.61, giving Wilmington a two-day total of about 2 inches. We'll get a little bit more wraparound moisture, but nothing significant. And it looks as though our forecast really verified in terms of rainfall totals here in the immediate Triad. We were talking about certainly less than an inch and likely seeing rainfall amounts around a half of an inch. Of course, nothing more than a few sprinkles over the foothills, and it's been basically dry, no measurable rainfall out into the areas of the foothills and the mountain locations. Now we continue to see a good bit of heavy rain. Again, here's the heavy rain wrapping through Raleigh and headed down towards Harnett County and around the Dunn and Lillington area. But some heavy downpours still, and you see these various green polygons. That represents flash flood warnings. When we're talking about a warning, that means that particular weather is in play. That is actually happening. So each one of these polygons in these counties down east representing that flash flooding is occurring in these areas. And you can see within these warned areas, we're still getting pockets of very heavy tropical rains down here. So these warnings are likely to be in effect for the better part of the afternoon, and then by evening and overnight, the heaviest rain moves up into areas of eastern Virginia. Now, I talked about the heavy rain at Raleigh-Durham. There is some progression to the west, but of course these rain elements weaken the farther away they get from the circulation of the storm. Burlington's getting some rain, Alamance County mainly light rain now, and I think some of this will pivot into areas of Rockingham and also Guilford County and around the Asheboro area. But again, this is not going to be significant rain and it's not going to be heavy. The severe weather threat, only a marginal risk for the Tidewater area for today and into the evening hours. Temperatures, we've made it to 64 over at Mount Airy, generally upper 50s and lower 60s across the area. Not moving very much with the clouds and the off and on rain and drizzle, about 63, maybe a few mid 60s out to our west like Mount Airy. And then tonight, areas of light rain and drizzle and about 57. I have lowered the wind gust, maybe a 25, 30 mile per hour wind gust today and maybe a 20, 25 mile per hour wind gust tonight. It's going to get better. This system moves away and we start to see more of a mix of sun and clouds, and after a chilly, damp day today, we're on our way to the mid 70s tomorrow, upper 70s coming up on Monday. System heads our way and will likely bring at least a chance of a few showers by midweek. Extra clouds hold temperatures Wednesday and Thursday around 70. This is my last cut-in for this particular tropical system. Join us tonight on WFMY News 2 at 6 and 11 for all of today's latest news, sports, and weather. Have a great afternoon, everyone.